I mean, he's always been a good guy. He was a neighbor. He stayed not too far away from me. But, like I said, I enjoyed playing with him.
Z, when now you progress, and I just think now you have that growth spurt. Was it NBA that drove you, that you thought about then, or was it just being part of the national team? What was on your mind in terms of the next level for you?
It was more of a natural progression, I think. First was, I started playing professional when I was 16, so I played both for my high school team and a professional team at that point. So it was just kind of progressing through the team. I was at the end of the bench. They got into rotation because you play against grown men and you're 16, 17 years old. It's hard to do. Then the starting lineup, got caught an eye of national team coaches. And then, maybe like 18, 19 years old, started dreaming about NBA a little bit. I didn't think I was good enough. They would show one game back home, like a game of the week. And in the day, it was NBA, and, they would pick like a 4 overtime game, and guys were dunking from free throw line. And, basketball, especially back those days in NBA, was more fundamentally sound. So you would see the ball movement, athleticism, everything else. And I was like, there's no way, like there's no way I can keep up with those guys. And, obviously you never know till you try it. But when I graduated high school, I started hearing little whispers, and some scouts came to Lithuania to see me and everything else. And that's when I started thinking that maybe.
What was that like when the NBA scouts taking a look at me, all of it, here you are, you're out there playing and they're here watching me. What was that first experience like?
It was, it made me nervous. It was, I wanted so bad to make it to the NBA. Everybody did, but it was almost seemed so unattainable goal. There were, back in the day, it was mid-90s, there were only so few guys that stuck in the NBA. And then some really good players, like legendary players, came from Europe and never were able to establish themselves. They had to go back, and here I am at 18, 19 years old. I'm like, well, do I even have a chance? So for me, it was more of just a waiting experience, and seeing if any team catches my eye. We went on a couple tours to the United States to play college teams, and I had some good games against good colleges. That caught eye of a few people more, and they came and saw some games in Lithuania. But still, there was not like right now. There was a little bit of teams were a little bit hesitant with the European players. You were labeled soft, you were labeled this, you couldn't break the cultural barriers. A lot of times guys say Europeans come here and they would not embrace the American culture, the way of living. They miss their hometown, they miss their food, they miss their people, so they never would stick up. They kind of created an island by themselves and never were able to flourish. So I think there was some hesitation in that, and the draft that I was drafted in '96. I think there was the record set at the time, the Europeans that would take. That was the first year that a lot of guys came in and got drafted in the first round.
You mentioned your tour then, and I guess I would ask you, I heard about a game you had against Kentucky. And I think you opened a lot of eyes there. I think I remember Wayne Embry talking about it, and Mike Fratello even. You opened some eyes. Did you know that night that, hey, I had a pretty good night?
The funny story is we played Vanderbilt. Well, I didn't know anything about colleges, like who's good, who's bad. They all were the same to me. We would walk into arena and look, if it was 20,000 people arena, we're like, okay, this team must be pretty good. If we walk in, it was 5,000, we're like, all right, maybe we can take these guys. Because, none of us knew how good these teams were. And we played, I think we played Valparaiso the night before. There were some scouts at the game, and we won, and I had a great game. 26 point whatever. So I'm like really happy, and everything that. So there were some scouts, and we go out after the game because we're not supposed to travel till the next day to Kentucky by bus. And I didn't know a lot of scouts that came to see me play. They came back to the hotel. They wanted to meet me, to see me, this and that. And me and my teammates, we went out. So guys had a few beers, this and that. We come back late. The team president is crazy. He's screaming, "What are you doing? You're going to waste your future." These are I'm like, I don't know, like what's the problem? So I never spoke with the scouts. Goes, they got mad and they left. They think you're so unprofessional. I'm like. So the next day we get on a bus and we're driving to Kentucky, and the coach comes and goes, "Look, you guys already made a mess. Don't mess this up. You got to play well." So I'm like, and then we get to Kentucky, and that was the team that won a championship, I think, that year or the next year. we ended up losing the game by a lot, but I played well, thankfully. I think after that game, even, because the competition was so close to the NBA, a lot of those guys got drafted. So after that game, I think everybody kind of started, well, maybe he can play because, I came in and performed well.
Then 1996, the draft comes along and your name is called by the Cleveland Cavaliers. What went through your mind that night?
It was just hectic. I was in the United States for a month before the draft happened. I went to a Chicago pre-draft camp, and then I did 15 or 16 individual workouts all over the country, somewhere twice, and just lived out of my bag. I traveled by myself, didn't speak much of an English. So by the time I got to New Jersey for the draft, my head was spinning. I was so tired. And my name, because of my injury history and people not knowing if I'm going to be able to compete physically, I was really skinny at the time. So I was fluctuating on the draft, like depending which newspaper you read or where you looked, I was all the way from top 5 to not even getting drafted in the first round to again, like back and forth. I wasn't in great shape because I was just coming off the injury. So a lot of pre-draft workouts, I couldn't show what I could do. I was dragging with my wind a little bit, and I just, so some of the workouts weren't that great, and people started saying, maybe, he's not that good, and I started dropping. You can see during the draft the players that were taken in the draft, and I really thought I was going to New York, because New York had 18, 19, and 21st pick. Right in the middle, Cleveland had 20, and then worked out twice for New York and had good workouts and everything else, and for some reason I just I frame around there, but then, when the picks came in, they took, I forgot who, but took 2 different players, and, my agent got a phone call right before the pick and said Cleveland's taking, that was Wayne. And, I was the first Lithuanian drafted in the first round, the highest pick, and, first round, for what it's worth, guarantees some protection and gives you, it gives at least a few years to show what you can. A lot of guys that get drafted in the second round, they don't get as much of a chance, so that was important. Didn't know anything of the city, didn't know much of a team, didn't know who was on the team. Spent the night, and the next morning flew into Cleveland, and the rest is well documented history. Well, now you learn how to walk. You got to learn how to run again. You got to learn how to do basketball stuff. So it doesn't just come back overnight. It's a long process that people don't see till you come back again.